feel like with her, it's either I hate it so much or I love it. I hate Daylight Savings Time. The cover looks sick. I love it. When people rate books they've never even read, why are you doing that? Genuinely like so freaking excited for all of these books. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am picking out my January reads from my TBR prompt jar. I've mentioned this before and I will say it until the day that I die. This is my favorite part of the month. I love picking out my next reads so much. It brings me so much joy to go through my TBR and find books that I completely forgot I put on my TBR. As of right now, my computer's right in front of me here. I have 985 books on my TBR. So it is a lot. I have a problem. I will admit it, but I just really love this part of the month where I can kind of go through and then be like, oh yeah, I put that on my TBR. I totally forgot about that. And then pick 6 books that I will pick from when I read, which that is the key word, pick from. This is not gonna be a TBR where I'm 100% gonna get to everything. It's not like I'm pulling 6 books and I'm 100% gonna read those in January. This is more like I'm picking 6 books, and then when I have some time and when I want to read something and I'm thinking, what could I possibly read? Then I tend to pick from this list of 6 books. I don't really like being, I don't know, tied down, I guess. I guess I'm more of a mood reader than I would like to admit. And so the thought of having 6 books that I absolutely have to read is too much for me. It just puts too much pressure on it and it takes away some of the fun of reading, and that's the absolute last thing that I want to do. And so this is just a very loosey-goosey kind of 6 books that I'm gonna pick from in January. I might get to all of them. I might get to none of them. I hope not, but I hope I'm gonna get at least to like half. I might get to all of them in February. I might get to all of them in April. Who knows? So the point for me really is to just have a little bit of fun, pick some books that I think I would like to read in January, and then see where it goes from there. And so that is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pick 6 books from my little jar here. It's literally crazy that I'm already picking a TBR list for January 2025. That's like incomprehensible to me. I'm just gonna pick 6 from the very bottom. I just like picking them from the bottom. I feel like that's where the juicy bits are. And as I'm picking them, I will mention that I have in the description below a link to my Etsy channel where I have all of these prompts. There's about 70, or there at least were 70 in here, not anymore. When I first made this, there were about 70. And I have all of these, plus also a whole bunch more to create 364. I know it's annoying, it's not 365. It's just the way that it worked out, I'm sorry. But it's 364 prompts on my Etsy channel. And so if you want to look at that and purchase that listing, then all you have to do is just print them out and throw them in a jar, and then you have 364, which that should for sure last any reader a whole year. It would last me like 3 or 4 years, because if I only pull 6 a month, it's gonna last like forever. All right, let me see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now, so we'll get my final one. Anyways, I just thought I'd mention it. If you want to check it out, it's in the description below. And here is number 6. I will say, before I read any of these, normally I kind of really read just fantasy and fiction and whatnot on my channel, and I'm not really reading, I don't know, that much else. I don't really branch out that much. I do sometimes, and I'll have maybe a month or 2 in an entire span of a year where I just go ham and I don't read like any of my normal genre, but I kind of really would like this coming year in 2025 as one of my reading goals to branch out a little bit more and to read a little bit more nonfiction. So I'm hoping I can make that work with some of the prompts that I have. I don't know, fingers crossed. We will just see. But I definitely would like to read a little bit more nonfiction this coming year, and like a little bit more personal growth kind of books, like skill building and whatnot, instead of just fiction. Anyways, that's that. I'm gonna read them out loud now. Okay, so the first one I have would have been nice to have last month because I literally read a book that fit this, and this is Vikings. I literally just finished, like a week ago, maybe in December, a Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen, which is a book about Vikings. This is a POC author, so that's a person of color author. I already have some ideas for that one. This is a standalone book. which is nice. I have a problem with starting series and then not finishing them, so it's nice to throw a standalone book in there. Also, I feel like a standalone book theoretically could be any nonfiction book. A book with a one-word title, maybe that also could be nonfiction, because I feel like there's a few self-help books or apologetics books that only have one title. A book with more than 5 words in the title. Like, literally, you saw how many were in here, and I just so happened to pick probably the only 2 prompts that have specific numbers of the words in the title. Like, that's very weird. And I pulled them also within my 6 prompts right after one another. That's very weird. So a book with 1-word title and a book with 5 words in the title. And then the last one here is a little frustrating because I don't know if I have it in me. But again, these are 6 books that I will choose from. It's not necessarily 6 books that I'm absolutely going to read, but this is the longest book in my Goodreads TBR. At the very least, this is really easy to find out, and it's not going to take much time of me digging through my TBR to figure it out. It will literally take 2 seconds. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. Okay, so the longest one, I have my computer right here in front of me, and I am just going to sort them by page number. And oh my goodness. Okay. My heart like stopped. It was 1,400 pages, and it actually is because it's a trilogy, like all in one. And so I'm not going to count that. And then the next one is Oathbringer by Sanderson. That's the Stormlight Archive, book number 3. And I've not started the Stormlight Archive, so I'm not going to count that either. Then the third one with 1,235 pages, which is actually kind of funny because I literally just mentioned this in my December TBR prompt poll because the author's name, I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, I'm really sorry. It's Pirateaba? I don't know, but there's the word pirate in it and then ABA afterwards, like all one word. And last month, one of my prompt polls was pirates, which is funny that this month one of my prompt polls was Vikings because those are like my 2 go-to fiction topics. I just really love pirates and Vikings. And so I looked through my Goodreads TBR and I just searched the word pirate, and one of the things that came up was this book, but it's not about pirates, and so I just continued on through my TBR. However, now I'm coming back to it because this is indeed the longest book. The 4th longest book is It by Stephen King, which I think also would be fun to read. However, The Wandering Inn by Pirateaba, I'm so sorry, I genuinely have no idea how to pronounce it, is right here. This is the number 1. And it's The Wandering Inn, book number 1. I will put the description for it on the screen so that you can see what it's about. It says it's fantasy, fiction, magic, adventure, slice of life, high fantasy. It has really good reviews, 4.26 stars, 9,769 ratings total. So hopefully it's gonna be good. There is no information on Goodreads at all for this author, and the only other books that they have posted, 24 distinct works, it's all The Wandering Inn. That's it. It's like The Wandering Inn 2, 3 part 1. Okay, that makes sense if they're in parts, because my first thought was this is overwhelming how long this is. Like 1,300 pages, was it? But if they come out in parts, in volumes, then that makes a little bit more sense. So I think the first book is actually split into 9 separate volumes. So does it really count as the longest book on my TBR? I don't know. I think so, because if you just look up The Wandering Inn, it doesn't say that it's separated into volumes, and it just says it's 1,235 pages. So I'm going to count it. It sounds fun. It gives me like Dungeons and Dragons vibes, which I've actually never played, which is very sad. I would love to, but I have nobody in my life who would like to play it with me. My husband acts like he would, but then if I actually try to get him to, then he just isn't really interested. And so I am just all alone playing Baldur's Gate 3 by myself because that's the only thing that even remotely comes close. And this book gives me D&D vibes. So yeah. Next up, I will look for a book with one word in the title. I genuinely have no idea how to even search this. I feel like if I do a Google search and come up with a list, it's just gonna give me a ton of stuff that's not on my TBR, because I feel like there's probably millions of books with one-word titles. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go to the most recently added books, because I just added a bunch of nonfiction books to my TBR, and I'm just gonna start scrolling. And I'm gonna see if anything pops out as being a single word. I don't know. I feel like most books don't, so it should be pretty easy. I just found two. Literally, Ingo by Helen Dunmore and Carmilla by, oh boy, J. Sheridan Le Fanu. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm gonna keep looking and see if I can find anything else. There's also Soul Gazer by Maggie Rapier. I mentioned that in my last TBR prompt poll. It's a book about pirates, but it's not out yet, and it's not going to come out still for a while. So I can't read that, unfortunately, even though I would really love to. But I will just keep scrolling down and see if I see anything else. Yeah. Coraline by Neil Gaiman. I don't think that I want to read that in January, but it is an option. Watchers by Dean Koontz. I don't think I want to read that either in January, but again, another option. Wayward by Amelia Hart. I'm going to add that in a new tab. I might look into that. Let's see. Oathbringer, again. I feel like it's maybe a sign that I should read the Stormlight archive. It's come up twice now. Fireborn, the Aurelian Cycle, book number 1 by Rosaria Munda. Also Persuasion by Jane Austen, but technically I'm supposed to be reading that. Also, there's a book called Outlive, and then the subtitle is The Science and Art of Longevity by Peter Attia. Does it count if the subtitle is longer, but the actual title of the book is just one word, technically? Does that count? I think that it's my TBR, and I'm gonna say that it counts. So I'm gonna add it over. And then also I'm just gonna add the last thing that I see on here, which is Momo by Michael Ende. It's in German. So those will be the ones that I have to choose from. There's Ingo. I will put the description of that on the screen. As I say the titles for all of them, I'll put the description on the screen so that you can just see what they're about, what I'm debating. I don't know about this one. This is a young adult middle grade fantasy adventure book, kind of a little bit more geared towards children, which in general is totally fine, but I do think I specifically put this to see if maybe I could find it in Spanish once my Spanish was a little bit better. And so I think I'm gonna say no, because I don't think that I want to take this on in Spanish right now. I have way too much else on my plate, and I don't think that I wanted to read it in English. I think I specifically added it just for Spanish. Carmilla, I might want to read. I think that could be a little bit fun. It's a gothic horror about vampires. I've heard some things about it recently, mostly from Anna from Anna's Bookery. And so that is definitely an option. That's a contender. And then there's Wayward, Amelia Hart. Again, this is another one over 4 stars. This one has over 250,000 ratings though, which is quite a lot. It's historical fiction, fantasy, magical realism. I have heard so much about this book because I've heard so many people reading it lately. I just don't know. I don't know, I'm not super crazy about books where it's like multiple women or multiple generations. I'm not really sure what it is. I don't know, I feel like I kind of get bored easier than a book where we're just following one character or multiple characters, but they're at least in the same timeline. It says that it's 3 women across 5 centuries. I don't know. But also it says it's an enthralling novel of female resilience and the transformative power of the natural world. And I do kind of like that. That sounds pretty nice. We'll see. And then there's Fireborn the Aurelian Cycle book number 1. This is a young adult fantasy romance about dragons. Like, I'm just gonna say, based off of those tags and based off of the cover, this is giving me Fourth Wing vibes, but the young adult version. I don't know even remotely if that's accurate at all, but it's just kind of what it's giving me. This one could be fun because I do really like dragons. And I feel like a book that's kind of similar to Fourth Wing, but more young adult. So in other words, less smutty and just crazy in that regard would be really nice and would be something that I would like. So that's definitely a contender. Outlive, which is 4.36 stars, over 60,000 reviews. It's supposed to be really good. It's 496 pages though, which for a self-help book about health and like living longer and everything, that's kind of actually super, super long. Like, I think that might be the longest book on the entire list that I have. And it's not even a fiction book. That's crazy to me. I feel like only fiction books should be that long. It just is so weird to me when there's a book that's that long and it's not fiction. But yeah, that's an option. And then finally, Momo by Michael Ende. It is middle grade children's fantasy. I think it would be nice to read that, and it would be nice to read something in German. It has 4.34 stars, over 80,000 reviews. I think right now I'm gonna decide between Carmilla, Fireborn, and then Momo. So Momo, Fireborn, or Carmilla. Just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You know what? I think I'm gonna read Momo. I think I'm gonna go with that one because I've not read a German book in a really long time, and it literally says that it's won the German Youth Literature Prize in 1974 even. My gosh, when was this book written? Okay. It says this edition published in 1998. And I was like, so it won the 1974 award, even though it was published in 1998, but no. It says this edition 1998, but it was first published in 1973. So 1 year after being published, it won the award. I just feel like I'm living in Germany, I have a German husband, like I just feel like I should be reading a part of apparently German culture if this is such a beloved book, I guess. I mean, it only has 86,000 reviews, so it's not like it's crazy popular, but I do think that I've heard about it from other people, and I definitely would like to experience it. So I'm gonna go with Momo. I definitely will read Fireborn another time for sure, and also Carmilla 100%. I just, not in January, not with this prompt at least. Next up, Vikings. Oof. So when I search Viking, the only thing that comes up is Viking Ships at Sunrise, The Magic Treehouse, book number 15 by Mary Pope Osborne. And that's because I'm currently reading all of them in Spanish. So I could do that in Spanish. I absolutely would read it in January for sure. But I also think that maybe I want to read something that is an actual novel and not something like a little kid's book. I'm not knocking it because I do really like it, but I'm just saying, I don't know, I kind of want to have like an actual book about Vikings because I just really love Vikings so much. When I look up Viking books on Goodreads on Listopia, I'm seeing Sky in the Deep by Adrienne Young, which I have already read. A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle Jensen, which I have already read. Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. I want to read that one, but I will be honest, I am not the biggest fan of Trisha Levenseller. I think that her book, Daughter of the Pirate King, is not bad, but it's not my favorite. The writing is not super great. It's like 10 out of 10 vibes, 3 out of 5 writing. So I'm kind of a little bit worried that Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller is going to be the same. But also, I don't know. Do I care? Because like it looks kind of good. There's also like some other ones, the Saxon Stories series by Bernard Cornwell. I've actually never even heard of that. It looks like it's historical fiction, fantasy, medieval, and it looks like it's based on actual existing records of Bernard Cornwell's ancestors. which is pretty cool. But it seems like it's also told like a little bit back and forth between King Alfred the Great and Uhtred. I don't know, this seems actually pretty good. I'm for sure 100% it was not on my TBR. I'm gonna add it to my TBR. But I do think I kind of really would like to read something that was already on my TBR. So I think I'm not gonna read that one this month, but I did find another one right now on my TBR list, and it's Sky and Sea book number 2, The Girl the Sea Gave Back by Adrienne Young. I'm not 100% sure if this actually is about Vikings, because the first book absolutely was, and I actually really, really, really like that first book by Adrienne Young, which was the one that I mentioned before, Sky in the Deep. And this one I've heard is like completely different than the first one, and so I'm not sure if it is about Vikings. I'll put the description on the screen for this one so that you can just see. It says it's a gut-wrenching epic. But it's got 3.57 stars, and then I'll put on the screen The Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. That has 3.96 stars. So I think I'm just gonna let the ratings decide for me, actually, and I think I'm gonna go with Warrior of the Wild, and I am really gonna hope that it's good and that this is not gonna be a Trisha Levenseller book that I really dislike. It's gonna be one of the ones that I do like, because I feel like with her, it's either I hate it so much or I love it, with the caveat that I still think the writing is pretty bad, but I still love it regardless. So I'm really hoping it's going to be in this camp and not in this camp. We'll see. A standalone book, I am just going to really quick take that to mean that I could literally pick any nonfiction book, and I am just going to pick something from my self-improvement, etc. Christian list. And I'm going to sort that by average rating. I'm just going to see what the highest one is. So the highest rated one, and actually something that I literally just put on hold at my library. I think there's 1 or 2 people in front of me, so it might be perfect timing. Fingers crossed, we'll see. It's The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, How to Stay Emotionally Healthy and Spiritually Alive in the Chaos of the Modern World, and it is by Mark John Comer. Sorry, that's not it. It's by John Mark Comer, and I have heard so much about this. It is a Christian nonfiction book, and I am Christian, so for me it's perfect, but just so you know, it's not like The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, like a general kind of book. Like, it all comes from a Christian standpoint, which for me is kind of exactly what I'm looking for. And it's 286 pages, which is nice. I feel like I already have enough long books on my TBR and enough stuff on my plate. So this is perfect for me. That's definitely what I'm going to read for that prompt. Next up, a POC author. My first thought was Tracy Deonn. She wrote Legendborn, and I actually have not finished it. I like it, and it was one of my TBR prompts, I think maybe for November, maybe October, something like that, something around there. And I never finished it just because it was a little bit too young adult for me, I think. But I do actually really like the plot and the idea of it, and I would like to finish it one day. And so then I was thinking maybe something like that. But also, I do have a ton of authors who are Native American who I just added to my list because of Native American Heritage Month. So maybe I could go with one of those. All right, I am just gonna go to POC authors books on Goodreads and then look through the list and see what I have already added to my TBR, just to get a very quick idea, because I think right now I'm actually kind of overwhelmed with the amount of options that I have. Right off the bat on the list, there's The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. There's Children of Blood and Bone, Legacy of Orisha, book number 1 by Tomi Adeyemi. There's The Color Purple by Alice Walker. The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm actually 50% of the way through, not all the way. There's Pachinko by Minjin Lee. I'm also about 50% of the way through, but again, never got around to finishing it. There's Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sains. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. Maybe that one. Sabatahir. That one might be a good one because I've really wanted to read a lot of books from Sabbath to here. There's The Ember and the Ashes, which is book number 1. There's also Air, which is book number 1 of the Air duology. Ember and Ashes, I believe, has like 4 books. And I guess really those are the only 2 actually that I have. But I want to read all of the Ember and Ashes books and the duology. And I really want to read Air though. You know what? I'm going to do that. All right. Young adult romantasy. I love romantasy and it looks good. The cover looks sick. I love it. And I just think that it's going to be a fun time, I hope. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read Air by Sabbath Tahir. And it's a duology, which is nice. I'm not getting myself into a really long series because the Lord knows that I can't finish them. And so that's perfect. And then finally, a book with more than 5 words in the title. Can you tell how long this video is already taken by the fact that the sun is going down behind me? Which, by the way, it's 3:45 in the afternoon. And this is what it looks like outside. This sucks. Like, do you have any idea how frustrating it is? Like, finally, when you're finished with work and you're finished doing everything that you have to do on your to-do list, and then you think, I want to go for a walk outside. We live right next to the forest and it's beautiful. And then at that point in time, it's probably snowing, it's rainy, it's cold, it's completely pitch black dark by the time you get out of your house. It's like you can't even go for a 30-minute walk at 4 p.m. without the sun being set. Like, oh, I hate it. I hate daylight savings time. Anyways, that's beside the point. A book with 5 or more words in the title. I think I am literally just going to do the same thing and sit here and go through all of the books that I've added to my TBR and then see. I think I'm going to do it by average rating and put the highest rating at the very top. Of course, books that are not even out yet are 5 stars. I hate it when people do that. Like when people rate books they've never even read. Why are you doing that? It makes me so angry. Like, why? What possesses somebody to do that? Like, I get if you want to show support for the author, but I feel like that's not support for the author. I feel like that's like scammy and it's weird. And then I think, oh, it's 5 stars. That's amazing. And then maybe in reality, it's an awful book, but nobody knows because nobody's read it yet. Like, I hate it. Anyways, that's also beside the point. I'm sorry. So continuing down, literally all of these highly rated ones are not even out yet. And then there's quite a few that are like book 2 in a series or book 3 or 4 or whatever. Like, my gosh, I'm like book 2.5, book 2, book 0.5, book 1.5, book 3, book 4, book 3. Again, more books that are not even out yet. This is ridiculous. Like, I'm just going to keep going down and down and down and down and down. All right, there we go. Finally getting into some that are out for sure. There are some Christian nonfiction books. There are some small indie kind of books. All right, so there's The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. I'm just going to put that to the side. That is 5. So it does work. And I'm just going to continue and see if I can find anything else. So there's also House of Earth and Blood, Crescent City book number 1 by Sarah J. Maas. I am not sure if I want to read that or not. I don't know. I've heard that it's really good and that it's better than some of her other series. I personally like the Throne of Glass series. I'm not the biggest fan of her Court of Thorns and Roses series. I feel like the first 3 books are really good. And then for me personally, it just goes way downhill. So I'm kind of hesitant to read a Sarah J. Maas book, but could be good. I feel like I keep getting excited. I keep seeing something that's like 5 words in the title and the cover looks really cool. And then I click on it. It's got great reviews and everything. And then I see it's coming out in 2025. Sucks. Or I keep seeing things that I'm like super, super excited to read, but it's got 4 words or 6 words or something else. It's like, why is it so hard actually to find something that is exactly 5 words? So there's one, A Tide of Black Steel, Age of Wrath, book number 1 by Ryan Anthony. And I actually feel like this has Vikings in it. It says that it's a spectacular first novel in a new epic fantasy trilogy inspired by Norse mythology. A new age has dawned, an age of blood and steel, an age of wrath. Could be nice. Could just continue with the Viking theme. There's also Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson, but I actually have a very specific, can't think of the word in English, I can only think of it in German, like Reihenfolge, like a way that I want to read it, like an order. I'm sorry. An order that I want to read them in, and Tress of the Emerald Sea is not book number 1. And so I'm not going to read Brando Sando until I really have the time to sit down and read it in the order that I want to read it in. So I'm going to go past that real quick before I can think about it too much, because I really want to read it so bad. There's The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. That could be nice. I have not read anything from her. That's crazy. I feel like I must have read something. She wrote The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, of course. I liked that book, but I wasn't super crazy about it. I rated it 4 stars in the end, but my gosh, I have really, really wanted to read so many books from her. Like literally every book she's published basically is on my TBR. So let me just look real quick. There's A Darker Shade of Magic. That's 5. I really want to read Vicious, but that's just 1 word. I should have picked that for my 1-word thing, but it's fine. I'll do it another time. Gallant also. I could have picked that for my 1-word thing. It's fine. So I think it's between Shades of Magic book number 1 and Threads of Power book number 1. I don't really know if you have to read them in a specific order. I don't know. I don't think so. I think as of right now, I think I'm going to get rid of A Tide of Black Steel. I do really want to read it. And also The Name of the Wind. I want to read that so bad. 4.52 stars, and it has over 1 million ratings. That is like literally unheard of. And the literary awards section for this book is like ridiculous. It is so long. So many awards. I feel like maybe I should be reading that just because it is so beloved, clearly. But I really, really want to read these books from B.E. Schwab. So I think I'm going to get rid of The Name of the Wind, but I'm going to keep it in mind. And maybe next month I will fit it in, and hopefully I'll fit it in first. House of Earth and Blood, I think I'm going to skip that for now. But also that one has almost 1 million ratings and 4.47 stars. That's crazy. Like, my goodness, this is like really, people are going ham for these books, and I feel like maybe I should be reading them also and going ham for them, but I want to read V.E. Schwab more, so I'm not going to read that. Let me know in the comments below, though, if you have read Crescent City, the series, and how you think it compares to Sarah J. Maas's other books and her other series, and what order you would put them in, just so that I could maybe decide a little bit more if I think I actually would like it that much. I don't know, I'm just very uncertain about it. But what I am not uncertain about is the V.E. Schwab books. I am pretty sure I'm going to like them, but holy guacamole. 648 pages for The Fragile Threads of Power. Jeez Louise. You know what? I think I'm going to save that one. Also because it says it's set in the world of A Darker Shade of Magic. And it's just V.E. Schwab opening a new door into perilous adventure and tangled schemes with The Fragile Threads of Power. So it's not saying you have to have read A Darker Shade of Magic, but it's set in the world. And I feel like if it's set in the world and that was published first, I should probably read that one first, because maybe something happened that they reference at least in The Fragile Threads of Power. If you read both of these books, you're probably like screaming at me through the screen. I hope I'm making the right decision. I don't know. I will say that The Fragile Threads of Power have, like, overall the books in the series have much higher reviews than the Darker Shades of Magic books, but it's still over 4 stars, which is pretty darn good. I think I'm going to read that one. A Darker Shade of Magic, Shades of Magic, book number 1 by Victoria E. Schwab. All right, so that took forever, but the longest book on my TBR, that is The Wandering Inn by Pirateaba. I'm so sorry. It's just there's no information on this author, like how to pronounce their name or anything. Nothing. I have no idea who they are. I don't know anything about them. A book with more than 5 words in the title. Okay, so I actually misunderstood this. I thought it was exactly 5 words in the title, but this is more than 5 words in the title. But I am assuming it's 5 or more. And so I'm still gonna count it because it took me a really long time to find it. And that is A Darker Shade of Magic by Victoria E. Schwab, book number 1 in the series. How many are there? It's a total of 3 books in the series. That's not too bad. A book with a 1-word title. I am going to be reading Momo by Michael Ende in German. A book about Vikings. I'm really excited for that one. I'm going to be reading Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. Super excited. And then a standalone book. For that one, I chose The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, How to Stay Emotionally Healthy and Spiritually Alive in the Chaos of the Modern World. It's an incredibly long subtitle by John Mark Comer, and I'm super excited for that one also. And then a POC author, I chose Air by Saba Tahir, and that is a duology, the Air duology, book number 1. So I am starting a couple of new series and I didn't really want to do that, but also I'm genuinely like so freaking excited for all of these books, especially Air. I've wanted to read that for so long. And The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, I feel like everyone recommends that to me, in my circle at least. A book about Vikings, super excited for that. And the book The Wandering Inn, that's 1,300 pages. I'm gonna be honest, I'm like half really excited for it and half really dreading it because it's so long. But also, it just looks like it's so much fun and like such a vibe, and I am really excited to read it. So that is everything. I hope that you guys picked out some amazing books also to read in January. I hope that you all have an amazing end to 2024. I think by the time I post this, it's probably gonna be around Christmas, maybe after, I don't know. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. I hope you have an amazing start into 2025, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.